Now, if it wasn't, this is a Calicat, the Calicatster, and I'm attempting to redo an earlier thing I deleted that was a mess. The video. This is a on location missions episode, I guess, more or less. My thoughts on the Daniel and Carrie party. Just because, why not, 36 party when I mentioned it. He had his group over from the Bible study group, basically. His version of Snack from my church, what do I call it? Sunday night alternative college koinonia snack. His version of the calling. Let's call it that later. The gathering after that, and atmosphere after that. So, and Amanda Rumsey. That's sort of a follow-up to the events of a Brown Productions video. That was the Bee birthday, 1997, and there's a connection because two of them had been to that when they were like in 4th grade, and now they're adults, and now they're in their late 20s, and the three of them actually have been there. Rachel and Savon and Zach had been at that party and remembered the house and all that. So anyway, I'll just use their first names. So it was the roommate Daniel's birthday party. So it was a birthday party, so it wasn't wild. Nothing wild happened. They brought out the old, I believe it was Card Captors stuff. Play with that. Some of them brought food. Rachel brought food. There was a bunch of people gathered. This is his friends. So it was not a Calicat interrupts the whole thing. It was more like Calicat's a host. Calicat, he play the host. So yeah, go play a game or something. Yeah, pretty much early on, you go play. Savon. I don't want to be interrupted everywhere. Go play with them or something. Something like that. It's fine. They mentioned the Bailey boys, who were responsible for activating the hornet's nest of a cyclone tornado that came out and attacked all of the kids at Sarah's 10th birthday party in that time period in 1997. And it was a legend, Brown Video Productions, the infamous, hornets everywhere. From the perspective of Zach, he thought that he had hit the tree, that one of the boys had hit the tree with the piñata stick and knocked the hornet's nest out of the tree, which I didn't see that, but maybe that's what happened. But there were also a bunch of nests in the ivy in addition to that, so it was like, okay, well, they're all over the place. Stepped in it, and this swath of hornets came out. That's what happened in 1997, quite a long time ago. When this person was, he would have been a little older, but yeah, he was there too. Yeah, so there was 4 people that were there. John and Daniel were there. They were there. So there's they have memories of this Calicat place, the Brown Production Studios, that are that's different from the other ones. Their perspective is different. There was a band playing. It was actually Dan Brown's band, and I think they were called Unofficial at that point. That was the name of the band. They were playing. It was very loud. Playing for the kids. So that was that story. And some of the Baileys left the church, went on to do other things, and and we'll just leave it at that. But over the years, So some of them started playing they were going to play the magic kind of game, it's a space sorcery game, which is funny. But Bible study's going to play a sorcery game. That's funny. But Zach's group decided to split off, so there was like about 15. I think it was 15 people there. It seemed like it, 15, which is a good number. They didn't have music playing, but they didn't film any of it. So we have no video record. We have half of a video record of the Bee birthday. You can see it on Brown Video Productions. You can see it there. if you want to watch it, it's all that we have is there. No, we don't have record of the actual things hornets flying out, and they were hornets. They were paper wasps, hornet. Well, they were hornets. Yeah. But yeah, that's on the other channel. You can watch that. This is sort of all location missions, but not really, because it's the house. Yeah, and Mr. Carey was there in the background. He was the other host, and so there was there. So the other games that were played were, or I believe, UGG, and it was a caveman one with where you have to guess the word. It's kind of a Mad Libs crossed with a word search crossed with a little bit of what's that other thing? It was you try to guess the word with one syllable, and it's like caveman talk. So yeah, of course, they broke out with the Flintstone accents. Hey, Bonnie, my pebbles, and all that. Because of course, I didn't do Captain Caveman. Oddly enough, that would have been a little bit earlier, but I knew that one. Captain Caveman. I guess the other guy kind of did that. I believe that the character of Rachel, who's about Sarah's age, a little younger than Sarah's, more like closer to, a little younger. I'm not going to say their ages. They're all in their 20s, and some of them are in their 30s. A couple of them are in their 30s. But yeah, so we have Teves there with either I think it was her fiance. I think it was her fiance. I don't think they're married yet. Yeah, and they didn't do any spooning or anything. It wasn't like that. Nothing like that happened. That's why I was a little confused as to what that relationship was, because they weren't really, they could have been siblings the way they were sitting there, but I think they were actually together. Yeah, that's probably the case. And there was another dude that was from the BBS thing years ago, and another dude that wasn't but kind of looked like he was. He's just very memorable, very tall Asian guy. Just very, very memorable. They were gamers, and oddly enough, their classification would be in the generations. They would be post millennials, most of them. Some of them would be millennials, yes. Well, they would classify themselves as millennials because they're after 86, after 96. Some of them, a lot of them. So they would be millennials. Some of them are early 2000. Yeah, so they'd be that would be post millennial technically, according to Case and all that. You can look that up. Although Case, the Generation X guy, wrote the book. That book only goes to 1997. It stops in the year 1997, which is interesting. All the others are just people guessing and adding to the wiki. But we won't go into that. This was going to be also mentioning that it was kind of similar to how on television when there's a guest star who's a producer that appears in a story, or maybe reality TV, but it wasn't because they didn't film it. So none of that matters because it wasn't filmed. So I decided that this doing this over, that I was like, yeah, that doesn't matter because you didn't film it. If you'd filmed it, then it would have been, oh, you're doing a real world kind of thing with a Bible study again. You did this before, 1998. It was called the two-car garage is in my house. Yeah. It's a big house, literally. The Calicat 28th birthday movie was referenced as well. And that was just a little after the Bee birthday. And years later, Martha found some pictures from that. It was determined it was Dan's birthday, but it was not. So I said, Martha, that was my birthday. It was my 28th birthday. Dan was there, but yeah. It wasn't his 12th. It wasn't Dan's 12th birthday. That was later. Dan did a 12th birthday thing later. He was in that too, but it was actually mine. The picture was from mine. But there were no pictures at this, which is weird. They all had cell phones, but they weren't using them. Also strange. So that actually that places them as using the cell phones as technology instead of being on them all the time. That places them in a different group category. If there were groups, all of the works of John Hughes, they would be gamers. It would be geeks, gamers, absolutely. But they'd be board gamers, which is different from video gamers. Although one of them was a coding programmer student and understood how to play this game called Chameleon. He understood all the rules like immediately, just because he looked at it and programmed the thing. And that was Chameleon was really tough. It's a cross between Clue and Codec and a number of other games. But maybe the point of that one was to guess who the chameleon is, so the shapeshifter. It's like Imposter. You know, the game from earlier, Imposter. It's like that. Yeah. I would have designed it differently, so it would have been more fun. But they seem to enjoy it. But yes, they did mention near the end, the whole thing, that they could have played D&D, and I was all, yeah, you could have. I actually know how to do that. I don't have a D&D board, but I know how to play D&D. I think everybody in my generation has played D&D at least once. But no, I'm quite a bit older, so yeah, 54. 54, so yeah, so D&D. Yep. D&D. Playing D&D. Dungeons and Dragons. You know, my game of choice in the high school era and a little after was in high school it was Champions and Silly Trek the role-playing game. I created Silly Trek the role-playing game with John Yeager or Marcus Cards. And yeah, Marcus Cards or John Yeager still know 38 years later. And yeah, and he and Henry were at that Two Car Garage birthday episode. Henry Pritchard had come back from Nebraska and was visiting and happened to be in the episode. So he was the guest floater. I remember it was there. There was like 20 people there. It was huge. I also did 2 ski trips there in Brown Video Productions. You can watch all that stuff on the other channel. So this is a Missions episode. It's a sequel to First Press, the series. Now it's C3. Christ Community Church Milpitas, C3. Even the youth group has changed. It's no longer Hearts of Worship. It's C3 Youth Group thing. I think actually that's the kids though. That's the modern kids. It wasn't a party for them. These were adults. But yeah, the Hearts of Worship is no longer called that. I was in it. It was Hearts of Worship. Yeah. And we have other ones going back and forth. So they were all incredibly wholesome and friendly and stuff. It's kind of funny that Sarah's in the same clique or a similar clique to that, like board games and stuff back in the day, and. Her group kind of broke up after, well, some of them moved around and did other things. And a lot of them got married before she did. They all got married before she did and moved away. So they became more wholesome and they annoyed Sarah, my niece. And she was like, they said, oh, I want to be dirty. I want to be avant-garde and stuff. And they keep, they keep going, oh, no, we don't want to do that. Nothing raunchy, she wanted to cuss. They didn't cuss. This group did not cuss at all. There was no cussing. They didn't even rally. They brought food and they ate it, and they brought dessert and they ate it. There was no cake, which was weird, but not uncommon. A typical birthday party of Philip, my nephew, Sarah's brother, would be pie instead of cake. So they had pie. So this one was like that. They had pie instead of cake. It was just interesting. And the happy birthday song was actually last minute. Zach was, of course, the piano man. Of course, Zach's the piano. He's got to be the piano man. That's why he's here. He's going to play piano. He didn't much, but he did give me a few pointers, though. But yes, he's a piano teacher, and he was like, he's going to do the birthday song at the last minute, and that was funny. And I mentioned the games. I mentioned almost everything. No, this is good. This is a good take. So then they get to the end and do the birthday song, and then I added at the end, 11 years from your age of ascension as a Klingon. Now he will receive 36 lashes of the pain stick. And they had that cave Ugg thing, and which is a soft bat, inflatable bat. They should have then hit him with. They didn't, but it would have been funny. He would have been okay. No, he's not really into They're not really into Star Trek. They're a little bit into the card game. They're a lot into the card games and a lot into the other stuff, the strategy stuff. And I'm not much of a strategist of anything. If they played chess, I would have been real bad at that. But yeah, more of a creative arts, English editor kind of thing. Yeah, I would play word games probably really well. If they did that. But yeah, or charades really well if I did that. But yeah, so yeah, I know it's also making a few accents and silly voices from whatever, including the Roger Rabbit, whatever, just for fun. Yeah, and also it was mentioned that this game was melting my Asperger's and autism. And, oh yeah. But I wasn't making fun of it because I watched this tape. I was like, no, I actually, yeah, I'm not math autistic though. I said, I cannot figure this out. Don't have me cheating at cards. I would not be able to do that. But if you edited words together, I can do that. And they didn't explain the rules halfway through on both of those games, so I didn't know what was going on. But it was still fun, and I did not override everything. I did not control the conversation. Early on, Saban said, "Don't do that," so I didn't do that. They were. It was a conversation. It was a game. It was playing people. It'd be like a real world with a guest appearing in the background. Real world Milpitas, spin-off sequel with this producer guy from the other. It would be like it would be like when Netflix redid Full House and they brought everybody. Like they could only get some of the people on board, but not the Olsen twins. But they just said, "Oh, let's get the pale child star guy to show up." Yeah, it's like that. That one guy, he'll show up. He'll appear in anything. Yeah, Cal Cat. Clean the house first. Oh yeah, they didn't leave a mess or anything. It's fine. Actually, the house is cleaner than it was when it started. There was a curiosity that afterward, Mr. Carey, Brad, was reminiscing about his Bible study / college / career group thing, kind of mixing them up, I think, but I didn't correct him. I think what he was thinking, he combined them because, 8 years older than me, and he was like, oh, well, I think these people were there, and I think these people are in this other one, and, it doesn't matter the details, but several of the older siblings in luminaries, and even the parents of people that were in the group that they were in his group, and then my group started, so that makes sense. Yeah. So his original group, Mr. Brad's group, ended in about 1995, so just before Snack. And when it did, it included some of those other people from the church that he knew. And he mentioned a bunch of names that I was not familiar with, but some of them which I was, because the Taylors came in right on the end of that. And although they were there earlier, the Taylors were floaters back and forth between their church and their church and ours, going back to the 80s, because there was my grandmother's 90th birthday party. I did bring back down Grandma's pictures because Grandma was famous. Grandma Knapp was famous. Opened for the Chautauqua Circuits, and interestingly enough, brought down that headshot picture, showed it to Zach, and interestingly, although Zach was not familiar with the Chautauqua Circuits, one of the other guys was, and said, "Oh, the Chicago, yeah, I've heard of those guys. My great grandmother was in that." Oh, cool. I have heard of them. Yeah, Chautauqua, I've heard of them. Yeah, they were a musical troupe. She was in that. She opened for Kate Smith. But yeah, but the connection there is the 86 also Brown Productions video, because this is about Brown Productions videos on location. That's what it is. Even though on location usually doesn't go out beyond the location, so it's a misnomer. But in this case, we were on the set, basically. If it was a set, we'd be on the set. And so Grandma's party roundabout, her 90th birthday party, there was Ken and Vera Bryden were mentioned because Brad was familiar with it. This is a little later. This kind of connected this statement a little later. It kind of doesn't connect over here. But yeah, so The Brydens were the choir director and the choir lady from when Grandma Knapp was there. That was established. And Grandma Knapp's 90th birthday was established. But none of these people were there at that party. However, the Taylor girls and Beth Datlow and one of the Sharp girls, well, probably not one of the Sharp girls, no. She might have been there. But no, the Taylor Datlow and that were the Taylor girl were from Snack. 10 years later, in Snack, they were in their grandma's party. They were the entertainment. They were there. Grandma Knapp wanted a Hawaiian luau with cute children in it, and so they're all little Hawaiian luau thing going on. I was 16 when the grandma's birthday party aired, so they were a little younger. So you can figure out how old they are because they were just a little younger, and so they were in that. And then 10 years later, at Snack, a Sunday night alternative college koinonia, the ages match up. Yeah, so Brad's group appeared to be a little older than, well, obviously, and the ages for what after this party, Brad's going on about his group, right? So that's what's connecting that. But Snack, so we had. It doesn't matter really, but Katie and Liz and from that group were at their grandma's party in Beth. So they weren't at this party though. They weren't at this one. That wouldn't make sense. They're in their 50s now. They wouldn't be at this. No, but back in the day, they were at the 1998 party as well. So, but yes, they were in the background in that story. Also, Pastor Garner, who was one of the pastors, went up to who later. I was trying to tell the story to him, Brad. The last thing mentioned in the evening was them going up to. Was that Pastor Garner went up to Oregon to help out at the Whipple Creek North Valley Church, which happened. Their pastor left mysteriously under spurious circumstances, and he helped them out. I was trying, and Brad kept mentioning throwing in other things that had nothing to do with that, and I wanted to just finish the story. So at the very end of the evening, after everybody was gone, was this weird discussion about his group, because he wanted to talk about his group, and so I wanted to finish that story about how Pastor Garner is actually the guy that helped out my sister Yvonne's church up north. That's all I wanted to say, but it didn't come out. It kind of came out, but didn't really. So it was a weird, interesting coincidence. But yes, his group didn't directly impact mine. He kept mentioning and there was this after party discussion about other groups that were reminded of them. I guess he really wanted to be back in that kind of a Bible study and have some fun. So it was kind of like you were getting the cast party we're talking about last December. We're getting it over the last night, but a different cast. That it would be like, different. Amanda wouldn't fit in there either. Closer though, she might because she's probably about So she would fit in because she's closer to she'd be the same age as the party kid. Dan. She'd be the same age as him. So she would have fit in, actually. But yes, she was there. She wasn't. Anyway, so the other one went on from there. There was you mentioned the other. This is after the party. This weird discussion about the different groups, which were cliques, which were cliques, which were gamer groups or whatnot, similar. And this was after the party, so it wasn't like it was ruining the whole thing by having this weird discussion about cliques and groups. That was after everybody gone. So he's like, it's after everybody's gone, and so you have that, and trying to figure out the ages of people, and for some reason, to think that because Scott Boyd's Scott Boyd's brother's wife was in his group, that she must have been closer to his age, but she obviously wasn't. Oh no, she was just there. But that's very, what I said, that's very similar to how the newer group came in to our group in the 2000s, when everybody was going off to get married and doing other things, and they broke up. They were going to break up the calling, and all that, because they weren't going to do the calling anymore. Well, Sarah Bentley left. That when that group changed as well, all the high schoolers were coming into what was going to be Atmosphere eventually, right? So, but yeah, Atmosphere not yet. It was the Gathering after it was the calling. So this was the calling and then the Gathering. So in First Press, the series. So this is the history of that, which is fun. But yeah, you have and they changed the name to from First Press to Christ Community Church in Milpitas in 2004. So that's when they changed it. That's when the Academy changed. But yeah, it's entirely possible that Patrick and his wife were in Brad's group, but they would have been younger. That's all. They would have been younger. They would have been 8 years younger. And yeah, she's not older than him, really. And he is my age. Patrick is my age. Scott is 3 years younger. James and Katie are 3 years younger. Liz is my age. Maybe a year younger. I think, she's my age. Yeah, so, and Mr. Orcott's my age. The Orcotts, yeah, those guys. But yeah, they're long gone. But Katie's still around, and Easter, the Taylor Kurtz group was in there. Katie's still around, and all their children are the godchildren of the Calcat guys. The two Abbeys and the Emma Boyd and all that. Yeah, all the other ones. The ones that were born in the 2000, they'd be millennials. They weren't at this party. They were just they were just mentioned. So, yeah, not last night, but other times they were mentioned. So there's like this whole several generations going on here, and it's entirely possible that he kept thinking, and Mr. Carey kept going on about the wife and the other people, trying to figure out where they would fit in. But it works because there could have been simply younger people at the group meeting. They were 8 years younger. There could have been. There wasn't my case. That's fine. Yeah, there was like, by the time I was 32, there were teenagers that were 18 in there. And I was still there, and I was too old for the group. and then came back in the 2012 period. I would have been in my 40s when the 2012 group Atmosphere was going on. It was in 2011, 2012, 2013. And by then, Rumsey and then were in their mid-20s. So there was, so it was kind of this interesting dynamic going on. But yeah, so there was, or late 20s, I guess. I'm not going to give away everybody's age. You're not going to be able to figure it out. It's all over the place. But yes, so yeah, there are different generations going on. So yeah, it's entirely possible they could have been there. There was also he mentioned Adam Erbel, and the other Erbel girls were in there. His sisters were in there. And it's entirely possible too. Although Adam Erbel himself, I believe, is younger than me by like a year. So he would have been, I think he was younger, was he? Yeah, I'd say he was a year younger, maybe 2 years younger. Probably a year younger. And so if he was remembering when Adam Erbel was in the later careers group in the 2010s, and mixed it with the one from the 1990s. That's all. The 2010s one, he was in that, yes. A different group. And careers group was a different group. 2010s, yeah. That was later. The Amandas were in that. That was much later. Oh yeah, so yeah, time and space is right there. But yes, yeah, it was like, it's like the millennial thing, the chart on the wall. Where do they fit in here? People don't fit in categories really, but it's just kind of fun to mention the the ramblings of post-party people going on about what it was like back in the day. It's kind of like I think there was a song about that. There's no easy way out. It was about that. Yeah. But yes. So yeah. Or the Life Goes On theme song. I also like that. But yes. Yeah, that would be actually more appropriate. The Life Goes On theme song. But yeah, let's not play that though. Yeah, Faith of the Heart. Let's play that one too from Patch Adams. They used it in the Star Trek. Yeah, so they weren't Star Trek fans. They were kind of Transformers fans. They were periphery. Oh yeah, interestingly enough, two of them had been to GalaxyCon, and one had been to Fanime. So they knew about Fanime. I'm going this year to Fanime, so the Calicat and Fanime. It didn't surprise them that this is where the Calicat show was done, but they did not see any of the other props and stuff. They didn't come upstairs. They didn't see any of that. Fortunately. Yeah, it would be a little disappointing because all the sets have been taken down because it's early spring and there's nothing right now. I'm putting together the Advanced Guard Starship Locations Advanced Guard season, and yeah, so it's all on the computer now at this point. There's nothing to look at, so until it goes up. I don't know if they have YouTube channels. I imagine some of them do. But they were not into their phones like Sarah and Philip are. They didn't turn them on. They probably had them and were looking at them on occasion, but they weren't annoying with their phones. Yeah, and they weren't going on about the Young Careers group. That was afterward. And the snack group and the comparison. That was Brad and me going on about that an hour after the party was over. So it's like, yeah, that was not relevant to any of the other stuff. So leave that on here just because it's kind of funny. But yeah, the two Young Career group were mixed up, separated by 30 years between 1994 and 2014, roughly. Wow, that's the two were mixed up. But yes, yeah, a lot of them went off and got married and stuff. I was going to say I did mention one episode of that in which Curtis and Jessica wanted to go on a date. They were dating. And so all of us got to go up to the Swigert Road. And he didn't want to know the story about what happened there. Nothing happened, but he didn't want to know about it. It was actually kind of funny. That one, they remember the episode. It's written about. Nothing happened. It was make-out point, but nobody made out. It was rather sad and pathetic. We were all yeah, and there were three of us that were single: Josh, John, Gwen Hotchkiss at the time, and me. And literally, she looked at the two of us, and we looked back at each other, and she said, "Oh, I'm not going to date either of you." It's messed up. That's about it. And Raymond, there's a guy named Raymond. He was there. And and he was depressed about that. But then Devin talked to him. Anyway, so Devin and Denise are also there. But yes, he drove. Yes, so we didn't die on the cliffside, obviously. I wasn't gonna drive up there. Yeah. When we teased a cow at one point. One of those excursions up there. We teased a cow. And a farmer turned on his lights and came out there. Oh shit! And ran away. Anyway, yeah. It's about the extent of our misbehaving. We teased a cow. Yeah. But yes, oh yeah, Curtis eventually married Jessica, and yeah, that wasn't the end of the show when Curtis married Jessica. It was more like when Devin married Denise. That was the end of the show. That was like, okay, the last of them. That's kind of it. And Gwen Hotchkiss later got married, moved away, and and some of the other ones. They mentioned the Corey too. Yeah, another person from the cast was mentioned. It's not relevant. You don't know who these people are. I know you don't know who these people are, but that also went off. The Woodworths then came back. I mentioned Kim Clevenger was the pastor, and she came back and eventually moved away during the pandemic. Interestingly enough, this party group did not discuss politics. Sarah would be discussing politics and driving everybody bats. No, she was there. Would be discussing politics. No, and getting it all wrong. But nobody discussed politics. Nobody did that at all. They didn't go into it. Maybe they did in the slightly other group in the other room. We were in the living room and they were in the kitchen. They were in the kitchen playing the card captor game or whatever it was. It wasn't card captor. It was Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm playing the other ones in the other room. It's all kind of, yeah. So there were like they split off into two separate groups, and they did board games. Normally we don't do board games, so it was interesting to mostly observe. I was mostly observing. There was some playing, but mostly observing. I was confused about the chameleon game. I didn't know what was going on, but yes, yeah. And the other one, they didn't explain it. Yeah, they just figured everybody could tell. Yeah. Certainly wasn't making fun of anybody, and nobody got upset about anything. Yeah, so, yeah, gamer guys. Yeah. That's a clique. It's a gamer geek. That's an honorific. That's what they. Yeah, gamer clique. That's a thing. Yeah. So ours was very similar actually back in the day. Very similar. They had board games and stuff. Yeah, didn't do them much, but yeah, it was the same kind of group. Because even Snack was not into Star Trek as much. We did do a couple rounds of Silly Trek or Starship Locations. We did. Some of them were in that, but it was very creative. They said yes, but yeah, it was very difficult to play because. Starship Locations tended to be Calicat taking over as the game master and basically like winning the entire thing without trying to, just because. So they were all like, it would help if you wrote that down so that there's rules instead of just like, yeah, probably would have. But it was more like build your own scenario, build your own adventure, but as talking. So it would be like a writer's room kind of deal. Because a writer and a journalist. So do a writer's room kind of deal, or kind of coming up with a story. It's going to be a story, and then we're going to write it, and I'm going to write it down afterward. Yeah, so you come up with a story, and go like, okay, you're going to do a scene, now we're going to do a scene, now we're going to do a scene, and put it together, and it's an episode of Starship Locations. Ew. Yeah, there was episodes of that. Yeah, we did. That was with our group. Yeah, we did a Starship Locations a couple of times. We did a Champions once or twice. We got out the old Champions. We did a Robotech one, a Mech Warrior. That was what it was. Mech Warrior, BattleTech. That's what, that too. But yeah, back in the day. But it was Mech Warrior on the computer, but it was BattleTech in the game, the board game. Yeah. So yeah, if they'd done BattleTech, I would have been able to play it. But yeah, anyway. BattleTech. Like a battle strategy robot game. BattleTech, yeah, battle strategy robot games. So yeah, this one of the Starship Locations episodes is Scott was into the Star Trek and the Star Wars. So Scott Boyd was a character, Katie was a character, the Woodworth, Jessica and Curtis were characters. Yeah, so their offspring are represented as pseudo characters in the current series and Legacy. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, they aren't playing in that. It's just that they're referenced because they were Star Trek too, or they were into that. They're all good with that. Which is funny. Yeah, there was an episode. The first episode of the game became a scene from the episode in which they're supposed to command the ship and fly the ship around, and it was called the Exodus, I think. Get a religious ship, and we're like the Exodus, and and a bunch of other like religious names, and the ship's gonna go to warp or whatever, and Scott Boyd is like down in engineering, and he's like playing around in engineering with a basketball. And he's like, he throws the basketball into the warp core somehow because we rolled the dice and it said, oh, something happened to the warp core. I know, Scott threw a basketball into it. And when too much matter in the antimatter mix, almost blew the ship up. You know, roll the dice. It did have dice. It was basically, Star Trek the game, but with an added scenario level of build your own adventure. It was fun. Yeah. But it created Starship Locations, those stories you see on Amazon. KDP, storybooks. And of course online on my channels. Some of those are adaptations of that. Some of them are newer though. Most of them are newer, post 2019, so they'd be their descendants, really, technically. Although the ones that you're seeing as Vanguard Space and Canary Space is the Evergreen group, which is a different group. That's the one from the Flyer, and then the Spartan Daily later on, and that's a different group. That's later. Well, that's the same time period. It's 90. It's a little bit before the College Quinninia, the 90s, a little bit before them, and then and then some of it's a little after them. Some of it's the mid 2006 to 2008 would be the Spartan Daily people playing Star Trek. And we did Starship Locations there too. After the paper was halfway, we did it there too. And there's some funny gags in that one. In that one we had a student named Colleen Watson, famous, well, not related to Emma Watson, Colleen, comedian lady, future comedian on the YouTube. Who was in the cast, and she suggested that she suggested a Q episode where Janeway gets annoyed by Q. That's easy. Let's do that. Okay, let's do a Q episode. Sure. They were a little bit Star Trek and Transformers, but that was anyway. And so so there was like a connection to the other Starship. That's the weird connection, but yeah. So. It's mentioning different games. It's related because it's about different kinds of games that would be played at different kinds of groups. So there was the Flyer at Evergreen in the 90s. And San Jose State, not so much in the mid-90s. San Jose State really didn't have a game group. That would have been Jung Swan would have had a game group, and they also played the Starship Locations. So yes, over there. So they were in that too. And there's a Morgan and a Clark were the characters. Not inspired by Steve Clark though. Mr. Clark, the Clark character in Vanguard Space is a different guy. The last name is Clark. He's based on, well, he stole the name from Steve Clark, a teacher from Pine Hill. So it's a different guy, different dude entirely. But yeah, there's a lot of crossovers, borrowing names, and there was. There were Starship Location stories at that academy, Jung Swan, off and on during the 18 years at the academy, and so between 88 and 2007, there were quite a lot of. There were a few Starship Locations episodes. Mostly it was about the Grandmaster and everyone else, but sometimes. There was an occasional, let's do a Starship Locations. Let's do another one. Those are fun. Let's do one. Okay, we're going to do one. Yeah, we would do one. We'd shoot the breeze and do one. Yeah. The Paquette kids liked that one. They were about Dan's age. They liked that one. And the instructors were wondering what we're talking about. No, it's Star Trek. And Star Wars. Star Trek and Star Wars. They did Star Wars too, yeah. So, it was very similar. Anyway, so yeah, what kind of game is that? Just the word, scenario kind of thing. That's all. That's all it is. It's not very exciting, but some of it is a space opera. But yes, so that was a long time ago, and the Spartan Daily was 2006 to 2008, 2009 roughly, and there was some of that, a little bit in 2011, and yeah, they stopped 2011. Well, I left San Jose State. 2008, I graduated. In 2011, I came back for the beginning of grad school, but then ran out of money, so I couldn't continue. I started in grad school and couldn't continue. So, yeah. There's a couple of Trek fans still around there. I don't really know much about them anymore. I do keep getting weird Facebook things, even though I don't go on Facebook anymore, from some of them, including Michiko, but I don't think I've ever talked to her in like years. Nothing happened. I just don't know her anymore. But yes, what was the other guy? There's another dude that did a Helium magazine. Mountford, something his name, Mountford, something. Matt Mountford, yeah, something like that. Also him and the Vega Blue. I'm not, yeah, yeah, it's not relevant. Other than Starship Locations was not just me. That's what I'm saying. There's a bunch of other people over the years. This new group was not playing Starship Locations. Although if I come together, if I do an update of it and make it a board game, then maybe they would play it. Yeah, make it actually work as a scenario type of game. I could do that, but that sounds like a lot of trouble. Or we could go by the way of Mr. Roselli was also a gamer guy. Board games and stuff. Mr. Roselli's suggestion was just get Star Trek the game, because he did that on occasion at his group. Just get Star Trek the game and play it as your version. Just add like stuff to it. Yeah, like say update it to now and just use that as the template for the whole thing. That'd probably be easier. So get Star Trek the board game, next current version of it. That'd probably be easier. Or Star Trek Online. Ooh, yeah. No, yeah. Scott left Star Trek Online. So, yeah, you can still do it, but most of them they left. So yes, they met. So this was a long, drawn-out thing about games, board games. So it is related to the other stuff in that they played games sometimes. That's all. And there was an amusing field hockey moment in which they couldn't guess what hockey on the grass is. Somebody. Yeah, in this one last time. It's field hockey. I didn't know either. I was no help with that. But yes. So they were all nice and it was cool. So yeah. It was very, very wholesome. Very, yeah. They did ask if there were wild parties, and I said, oh yes, there were wild parties. And they're, ha ha ha. They didn't elaborate. They said there used to be wild parties here. Two-car garage played here. Yeah, real wild. But no, they were wild parties with my nephew. But I didn't elaborate. Yeah. I didn't say what happened. They didn't ask, so I didn't go there. Anyway.